Williams, and I am a youth ambassador with the Community Enrichment Project, CEP for short, and I'm excited to be your host for today's International Youth Day Dialogue. I would also like to welcome our panelists and our live stream audience for joining us on this occasion. Today's dialogue is hosted by the Community Enrichment Project and is to inform the groundbreaking UN Summit on the future of the food. This panel was coveted to bring together young food heroes devoted to developing ideas on how to make food systems safer, stronger, and more sustainable. As food systems around the world continue to recover from the shock of COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to host food system dialogues as a prelude to the first ever UN Food System Summit. It is scheduled to take place in New York this upcoming September. The panelists that we have before us are making progressive strides in their community while also simultaneously building sustainable solutions from the ground up. The young leaders of the world are streamrolling sustainable and environmental initiatives and providing solutions for current food insecurities plaguing their communities and around the world. It is not only an honor, but a privilege to be here with you all today. This dialogue will be lively and constructive, and it's basically just to inform everyone on how to make food systems safer, stronger, and more equitable. But we will also provide a diverse array of perspectives from around the world. So without further ado, let's get to know our panel. If you all will go around, introduce yourselves, and share what you brought here today to the International Youth Day. So Olivia, if you don't mind starting.
Hi, my name's Olivia. I'm 18 years old and I live in Sydney, Australia. I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Law and Art at university, majoring in politics and international relations. And this year I'm part of Plan International Australia's Youth Activist Series, which is a program for youth activists to just gain more knowledge into the area and to really speak on issues that we're passionate about. I'm really excited to be here today. The environment and climate change is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm really looking forward to discussing everything today.
We look forward to hearing all your insights. Mara, would you like to continue?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Clay. I'm probably the youngest one on here, but I'm 16 years old. I'm currently a junior right now at Crystal Ray High School. I'm part of a program called Heart Smiles that's mainly about entrepreneurship and leadership. I'm also part of the youth food and security team in Baltimore, Maryland, and pretty much that's it about myself. So, yeah.
Cool. We love to see young people giving back and caring about the environment. Dion?
Hey peoples, my name is Dion Harrison. I'm in Washington D.C. I am 23 years old currently, and I'm working as the Arts and Culture Coordinator at the Black Swan Academy, which is a youth advocacy organization within the city that works with Ward 7 and 8 middle schools and high schools, speaking about the conditions of our neighborhoods and like cultures that we carry. As well as like the different methods and histories and essences of activism and organizing that we can use today to like make important changes in our lives on bigger scales and on smaller scales. I'm excited to be here today just to talk about, I guess in doing a lot of that work, some of my own work in my life with my own body and stuff like that deals with what I eat and like the teas that I drink or just the way that I take care of myself and connect to the stuff around me. And thank you.
No problem. Finn?
Hi, everybody. My name is Dorian Jackson. I go by Finn. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a youth activist. I'm also a youth fitness trainer. I'm big on fitness health and mental health, too, because I feel like investing in your body is investing in yourself. I'm a part of the food insecurity team from Baltimore, Maryland. We work with the community to try and solve the problem of food insecurity around the world.
And that's no easy feat. Jasmine?
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm currently studying at university, doing a Bachelor of Security Studies, and I'm also doing Chinese on the side. I'm also a youth activist with Plan International's Youth Activist Series, and I'm really excited to get in on the dialogue today.
Well, I'm excited to have all of you here with me today. As you all may see, we have a great panel of youth activists here with us, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the topics that we have for today's youth dialogue. But before we begin, I would like to give a bit of background on the information on today's theme. So, the theme today is Transforming Food Systems, Youth Innovation for Human and Planetary Health. In 2019, the UN Secretary General called for Food Systems Summit and engagement process to unleash the power of food and deliver progress on 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. Our food systems touch every aspect of human existence. Health of our food system affects the health of our bodies, as well as the health of our environment, our economies, and our cultures. When they function well, food systems have the power to bring together families, communities, and nations. When our food systems fail, the resulting disorder threatens our education, our health, and economy, as well as our human rights, peace, and security. So, to jumpstart our conversation, I would like to share a brief video created by the United Nations in preparation for the September 2021 Food Systems Summit.
Food is more than just what we eat. The ways in which we produce, process, and consume food touches every aspect of life on this planet. It is the foundation of our cultures, our economies, and our relationship with the natural world, and has the power to bring us together as families, communities, and nations.
Families and children are on the brink of famine.
But today's food systems are fragile and unequal. When they fail, there are ripple effects around the world, and the pandemic has impacted the most vulnerable among us. But we know what we need to do to get back on track. We have an opportunity to build back stronger than ever. Transforming our food systems is possible and necessary, and we can set a course to make real change for the benefit of all people. By bringing together key players from around the world and giving voice to citizens in every country. Because a strong food system means
no matter your race, no matter your class, no matter where you live,
women and men have equal opportunities to produce and access nutritious food,
which promotes human health at every step
without degrading land and water resources.
Significa una agricultura familiar,
provide us, the community, with stability
all year round, every month, every day of the week,
even during a pandemic.
We are all connected, and we all have a responsibility to act. We must be bold. We must think and act differently. Transforming our food systems is the most powerful action we can take to solve our biggest problems, because together
we can build a just and resilient world.
A just and resilient world
where no one is left behind.
Where no one is left behind.
Where no one is left behind.
Where no one is left behind. Join us today.
As the video described, food is more than what we consume. It's the foundation of our cultures and economies. Our food systems are failing, but there is hope in making things better. So the first question I want to pose to you all is, what is a simple way to define a food system? And in what ways can we encourage youth and other community members to view food as more than a material object, but as an integral part of food systems? And Olivia, you can start us off, and you can all just go in order.
Great. I think that I would define, a food system as just the way that, the system of processes from agriculture to production and consumption. And I think that a definition of a sustainable food system goes even further than that, and that a sustainable food system is the foundation, for a healthy economy, a healthy environment, and healthy people. And that a sustainable food system equally provides access to a nutritious diet to all people, allowing us, the power to choose what we eat and how it's produced, and help to restore and regenerate our environment.
I happen to agree. Mar, anything you want to add?
Yes. I believe a simple way to define a food system is when the process of food is being delivered or transported worldwide. Many companies market and they build relationships with customers. And they also develop a new product. So the food system is like, responsible for packaging, transporting, and storage, and also preparing the food for those that's like, that's in need. As a community, we should be learning more about nutrition and how it can positively impact our bodies. The rate of obesity in America right now is up the charts. Every year, obesity has been a problem in America, and we're trying to fix, that problem. And this is because of, food ads like Burger King, McDonald's, and stuff like that, and also unhealthy restaurants and unhealthy. I'm gonna say unhealthy stores in general. Some ways we can encourage youth and other community members to view this as more as like a material object or more than a material object is trying to teach the importance of food insecurity or food insecurity. Oh, security, my bad. Also introducing them to like, nutrition, farming, food chains, and teach them lessons about like, how to empower change. So just having a small conversation with the youth about the food system could change their whole perspective of life.
I definitely agree. And by you being so young, I think you're one of the great advocates who can convey that to the youth. And I feel like they'll be able to relate to you. So that's good. Dion?
I was just thinking that those were like beautiful, beautiful statements to make. That they embodied a lot that I was thinking of, and I would reemphasize like just the culture and the energy surrounding food, or like when I think of systems, I think of or like just listening and moving with y'all like along your thought processes. I think of like how much we know what obesity means or what health means, and how we define those things, or how we define our own placement and like creating food for ourselves. I think like a system of food, or what I see when I think of a system of food, is the system that we are a part of, which is in some ways food just magically appears in the grocery store and we go and we buy those things. Sometimes we're not able to afford those things. I think of like those type of intricacies inside of like the different systems we have. For me being like just in DC, in the city, seeing like how different communities run, I think a system, it also like encompasses all of those many different processes and people who interact with food, and the many different levels of engagement people have with food. I really think food is a deep process, or it can be. It can be like a healing process, and it can be like it's really I'm trying not to go too far off track, but I think that like those things come to mind when I think of food systems and things that are kind of like unspoken but very much present as far as like the different realities we have with how we engage with that system.
I happen to agree.
How I would define food systems is simply giving people access and giving them knowledge on how to get the correct foods and use them. See, a lot of people may have access to the correct foods or nowhere to get them, but they don't know how to use them, or know how to use the correct foods, but don't have that much access. So, food systems around the world are not just to keep people from being hungry, but for us to connect to each other and with the earth. Um, the food systems are a big part of how we connect as a people and how we stay healthy and together on the world.
Gotcha. Jasmine?
I agree with what everyone said. I think you've all made really good points. I'd just like to add that a food system is about, how we get the food. So from production, so the farmers, and then production, packaging, and then to the consumer, and then to the household. So it's quite a long process. And it's even longer if you look at meat consumption, because you have to provide the food for the animals, and then, it's just long. And I think having that extra knowledge about where exactly we get our food from, and it's not forgetting that middleman, forgetting that packaging and like the transport to and from. I think that's really important. And yeah.
I agree. So, all great responses. Another question I want to pose to you all is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs for short, promote peace and prosperity across many different global issues. how are food systems connected to the UN's SDG? And we can just go in the order we went in last time.
I think that, the Sustainable Development Goals, the way that they connect with food systems is that, a sustainable food system and food systems in general, it's not just about food and eating food. If you don't have access to adequate and nutritious food, your health isn't going to be, your health is going to suffer. If children are malnourished because of flaws in their food systems, they're not going to be able to go to school because they don't have that energy and that nutrition. The effects of food systems, and especially with the effects of climate change, women, suffer the brunt of climate change and the lack of peace and that comes from climate change in communities, which has a further impact on gender equality. Food systems aren't just about food, and when you consider the actual impact of food systems and how widespread it is, it's really important to work on those food systems to become more sustainable, not just in how we're producing the food or how we're consuming our food, but across all sectors.
I think that's really interesting how you connected gender inequality with food systems and the Sustainable Development Goals. I think when I think about food systems, I never thought those two topics correlated. And I think that was really cool how you made that connection. I'll be thinking about that from here on out. Mar?
Yes. I believe the food system can positively impact, United Nations if we have a quality education. And I say that because I believe young people should learn more about food chains, like I said in the first question, food equality, what's on their plates. This could be like a fun learning tool for not only children, but for teenagers as well, that don't know much about, what's on their plate or what's healthy or not. Before the pandemic, a lot of children and teenagers depended on schools and programs for food. And it's only one thing I learned is hunger. Hunger can be invisible. You never know what a child is going through at home. So, when they depend on school lunch and programs to feed them, since the pandemic, they really have not been eating nothing, and they depended on the city to take care of them and their families. And this is why it's important to teach the importance of food security. Sometimes the food system can be broken, and sometimes the city and schools and programs can't help us. So, what can we teach kids and teenagers? We can teach them nutrition. We can teach them the importance of eating breakfast, focusing on health, exercises and activities that can promote healthy minds and bodies, and also providing them with selected healthy food options to give them so they can eat more healthier. And if kids don't know about this and teenagers don't learn about this in school, it can sometimes impact their mindset. As they get older, they continue eating the same unhealthy foods, and they continue to live in the same problems. Like, poverty had been a big problem in communities, especially in the African American community as well. So I believe if we can't fix it, if the problem can't be fixed, then we can't find a solution for the problem. The problem is going to always be there. And if we're looking at the problem and not doing nothing about it, it's going to create a bigger issue, and the numbers are going to increase.
I definitely agree with you. I think your statement of like hunger can be invisible was very powerful. And I do have hope we can find solutions to these issues. You named a few, by teaching the importance of food insecurity and enlightening the youth on the topic of food insecurity in the educational system will be a great way to start. So you being young and proposing these policies is already, doing the work so that we can further educate the youth on the importance of food systems and knowing about food insecurities. So that's good. Dion?
And I just have one question: is connecting peace and prosperity to food system, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I again agree, and it's great to hear from everyone again. So I'll continue to say that even like the nature around. I think for one, like there's something around like the experiences and the action of being able to like create opportunities for people to have food, specifically people who experience housing insecurity or homelessness. And just I thought to the specific like connections that are made between like mental health and physiological health, and what you intake, like whether that's on like a consumption level, like eating food, or like what you're consuming, like what you're watching, what you're thinking about, and things like that, and how those things intertwine and interact with each other. I really think that like whether it's peace or harmony within like things being at sometimes peaceful and sometimes not peaceful, with food looking different, like depending on these different days. I think like that really like creating a baseline standard of how we treat and how we see life and how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves is important, so that like as things change and get harder, like we don't ever forget that we matter, and that our body and our health matters, or that even if people are not able to pay their bills, like home still is important. Like a home and a house is still important, and food is still important. And like I think it really I think what comes up for me is that the statement of like peace and prosperity like being something of importance. I would need to see it like in my part of the city, and I want to say that in terms of like it's important, but not as important as like someone fulfilling a role, or being like a citizen without being treated with like human regard. So like in terms of like activism or like the deep injustices that be happening, I feel like it really becomes about, I don't know, like that statement, it needs to be like expressed in many different ways in those policies, as well as like in conversations and people being able to engage with food in a different way, and have those be elevated as much as all of the other things that we have of importance in people's lives. Have that be like, I don't know, just a necessity, to see food as much as a necessity as it is, but also to see culture and wellness and connection and community as much of a necessity as it is. Thank you.
No problem. So what I gather from what you're saying is that the promotion of peace and prosperity cannot go hand in hand if we're food insecure, or starving, or going through a scarcity of not having food in our communities. There's no way to promote peace and prosperity without that, without having that shelter, without having that stable food coming in, without having that mental and physical health, all those things combined. And it's needed to promote peace and prosperity. So I definitely think that was very powerful statements. Finn?
I think everybody answered was great so far, but food systems are connected to the United Nations goal of sustainability because they believe that everyone should have equal access to food and water. And when I say that, I mean, one person shouldn't be standing at the top of the mountain or the top of the food chain with all the food, all the water, and all the resources, while there's others down at the bottom struggling. So I think that the top man or the top bunches of people should be able to share their resources, share their technology, and share their knowledge with everyone around the world and everyone else in the world, so that everybody could gain and learn how to have equal access to all the resources that they need. For this to happen, we all have to work together.
I definitely agree. I feel like in order to invoke change, there's always power in numbers. And if we all unite and center around this one topic of food insecurities and promoting sustainability, this will be great for the environment and the world in general. So I agree. It's important that we all come together. Jasmine?
Yeah, everyone's made some really good points. I don't know what to say. I feel like having really secure food systems is so important because it's often overlooked. Like you have a look at the SDGs and there's some that directly link, but also indirectly link, like quality education. If you're hungry, you're not going to get the most out of your education because there's other things on your mind. So there's indirect barriers that people face. So food systems is a major issue and it can solve or at least alleviate some issues that are very prevalent, such as gender inequality, poor access to education, good health and well-being. And yeah, everyone made some really good points. I'm kind of lost what to say.
No, I definitely understand. You all made very valid points and kind provide us with a very great perspectives on the issue of food systems. So that being said, I know you all mentioned the importance of educating the youth on food insecurities and the food systems. What would you say the state of food systems, including the presence or absence of food insecurity and challenges, are in your community and or your country?
In Australia, I'm very aware of my individual privileges and my access to nutritious food. In Australia overall, our food insecurity rates, are quite low compared to other parts of the world. However, our rates of food insecurity are really concentrated in minority groups such as asylum seekers, unemployed people, and our Indigenous populations. During the height of the pandemic last year, over 1 million Australians were relying solely on food banks to have any access to food. And I think Australia, we often overlook flaws in our food systems and the fact that we do have food insecurity, and that it mainly really is concentrated in our Indigenous populations. And it's really overlooked and dismissed. And I think that, we've all just highlighted how food systems and food insecurity links to a whole lot of other areas and affects other areas such as gender equality and education. And I think that being able to address the fact that we do have food insecurity will help alleviate all the other issues as well.
Definitely. You can't solve a problem if you're ignoring it. So you have to shed light on this. I agree. Mar?
So yeah, in the United States, I definitely like Olivia said, like basically our resources and job opportunities are very, very low. And I would say like not being able to afford most healthy products like fruits and vegetables has definitely been an issue. Sometimes fruits and vegetables cost more than a hamburger at McDonald's. And it costs more than buying chips and cookies at a corner store. Because some of the supermarkets and like some of the supermarkets fruits and vegetables are kind of expensive. So that creates a big problem, especially in communities that's in poverty. And this is how they trick us into buying fast food. Because fast food is so low and the price is so low on them, they want us to go buy their food instead of buying a salad, which is like a salad, is about $10 to $12, when a hamburger or French fries is like, $4 to $5. And not being able to access healthy food has been a generational problem. So why are supermarkets so far from the poverty neighborhoods but so close to the suburbs? And there have been deeper causes that impact the communities, which is violence, education, and not having family support as well. A lot of teenagers get kicked out their home early, and so they have to rely on the city to help them out. So that's why some communities really certainly don't have access to healthy food, which is very important.
It is very important. And I think you made a great point by addressing the fact that in urban communities, the distance between the corner store and a Whole Foods or a Giant or a Trader Joe's is very large. And it's more convenient to go to the corner store or the bodega to grab some chips or cookies, like you mentioned, than having to commute via bus or via car 20, 30 minutes to the local grocery store. When then you go there, the fruit and the produce are marked up to extreme rates. So I definitely agree with you. That's a really valid point to make. Dion?
Okay. I would add that in some places the food options look different. I said that like we were in the same city, but again in DC, like in some areas of the city, because it's such a diverse place, and such a odd place to live and to see change with gentrification and with what would be the word? It's the word when everything goes up in price around the same time. Inflation. Thank you. You might have just said that. But just thinking of that, I would add that to the conversation that because it's such a small city state, and there are like so many different types of people here, like different like financial conditions and stuff like that. Like the food can look different and the grocery stores can look different depending on like where you go to shop in the city. It might be common for different places. But that comes to mind, as well as again, just like the culture and like people's mind frames and how they see food and health and things like that. I think there are like a lot of different things happening at once, but I recognize in this day that how people take care of their own health and like the food that they eat or in the activities that they do, like those different types of things. I feel like I've recognized in the past few years that people are taking that into their own hands, or like doing their own research or trying out different diets, which I don't think is always the best way to go. I think that around the culture and how we see food, I recognize in my life that health has been like intertwined with like beauty, or intertwined with like how people want to be seen by society, with strength, with sexuality, just different things like that, where food and it's like how we honor our bodies or how we take care of ourselves, or like the fact that we might not need to eat as much, like just all of that stuff. I feel like it's been out of whack, and people are trying different things is what I've noticed. And people are having conversations about how we each treat our bodies and how we can treat the earth as we treat our bodies and stuff like that. Yeah.
I definitely agree. I'm from Washington D.C., born and raised Washingtonian, so I definitely understand what you're saying. I believe it was 2010 or 2009 when Michelle Obama, when she was the first lady, enacted the like wellness kick and like the food revolutions or something like that, and that implemented providing physical education in schools and also providing the lunchrooms with healthier food options so that these kids in urban communities and just students of Washington, D.C. in general can be provided with those healthier resources and healthier food options. So I definitely understand what you mean. Finn?
I believe the state of the food system in my country is a lot better than other countries, but it's not where it needs to be. And the reason I say it's because my country may have and give you all the access to the foods that you need, but it also has a lot of corner stores, fast food places on every street you go, and it's just a lot more fast food and corner stores than you see grocery stores and food markets. Um, Another thing is knowledge. A lot of people don't have the correct knowledge to do all the healthy things they need. If you don't know how to meal prep or meal plan and cook the healthy food, you're immediately gonna go straight to the fast foods where you can get it easier. If you go to a store and meal plan for a week or two and get all the foods you need for a week or two, it may be cheaper than buying fast food every day, but you don't know. You just look at the fast food price and say, hey, that $2 cheeseburger is good for the night. So I think it all boils down to knowledge and having a lot more access to the fast foods than we have to healthy foods. And the reason I say ours is in a better state than other countries is because we have access to the right healthy foods, but we don't use it. We don't use the access the right way, while other people don't have access to food at all. So we need to work on getting everybody the access, but we also need to work on giving people the knowledge they need as well as access. Because what good is knowing how to fish if you can't fish? Or what good is having fish and you don't know how to cook it? So
I agree. I like that. What's the good of having fishing products and you don't know how to fish? What's the good of having fish if you don't know how to cook it? That's good. I like that going forward. Jasmine?
Yeah, so Australia is very lucky that we have quite good food systems. They are quite unstable in the sense that they do rely on monocultures, and the Australian climate doesn't really support these types of crops that we're growing. But I think a huge issue is you see in supermarkets, there's an abundance of food, fresh produce, all this different type of food, but it doesn't always get consumed. A lot of it goes to landfill. of the population who don't have access to food. So it's kind of, hello? My internet issues. I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
You have people who don't have access to food, but you also have supermarkets who will just throw out whatever's slightly brown or something. So I think there's an issue with accessibility, and also there's a responsibility of, providers, so supermarkets, markets and stuff, to be responsible with how they're distributing the food. Because I walk past my local supermarket and the bins out the back, they're full of perfectly good food, but I know that people would love to have that who don't have access. So I think that's a huge issue that we face in Australia, just a lot of waste, but an excess of food as well.
No, I definitely agree. We have similar issues here in the States. Food waste is huge here. I was mentioning this earlier with another panel. We discussed how our eyes are bigger than our stomachs. So sometimes we go to a buffet and then we see all these amazing food items. We're like, I want all of it, put it on my plate, and then I'm wasting half of it. And then most organizations or restaurants don't use or don't compost their food, so then they're just throwing it away. So we contribute to, we do a lot of food waste in the States, and we need to work on that. But it's also another point that you mentioned contributing to food waste is the fact that I think Mar mentioned it earlier, how the healthier grocery stores are located in suburbs, and I feel like that's geared toward a certain demographic. And as you mentioned, Jasmine, when an apple is bruised or a squash is a little bruised, they throw it away. But there's also people who may not be living in that community who would easily buy that item if it was available to them. So I think it depends on demographics, and also just as everyone mentioned, like Finn mentioned, knowledge and having access to the information to do better. So with that being said, what is one idea you all have on how to change the food system in your community or country?
I know other people have already mentioned it, but I think knowledge among young people, I think if that, we're trying to solve food systems, there's obviously the problems with the big companies and dealing with their negative contributions to food security. But I think providing knowledge and educating young people on the right choices, how to meal plan, as Finn mentioned, and being more sustainable with your choices. So not over purchasing food or over consuming, and then it all goes to waste. In terms of the environment, plant-based eating has been mentioned as a really good way to reduce your carbon footprint. And so it's not about fully committing to a certain lifestyle, but perhaps considering your contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, and trying to reduce your meat consumption a little bit. Just knowledge, I think, is a really big way to just look at food systems in a different way, how to eat healthy, how to look after your body, how to exercise. And I think including that in education curriculums is a really easy way to do that. It's an accessible way to provide this knowledge. And I think if we don't, it's a missed opportunity to address health issues that exist in our communities. And I mean, all of the other issues that we've already discussed. But yeah, knowledge, I think, is probably the easiest way.
I agree. Providing knowledge and insight on things such as food systems and food insecurity, I think, is a huge first step and can propel us very well in the future and help us provide more sustainable policies that actually are geared towards bettering the environment. So I agree. Mar?
Okay, so mine is very simple, and it's farming. So I know some people think like farming is like a country kind of thing, but you can actually put these farms in the city as well. And I feel like, me personally, I would love to have a urban community garden or a community farm in neighborhoods that have poor conditions, like abandoned houses, lack of food, lack of clean water, no healthy resources, or no beneficial stores, or violence. We just talked to an organization a couple weeks ago called Cherry Hill. It's called Black Yield. I think it's like they have a community farm or community garden, and basically they have a community garden in the most toughest neighborhoods in Baltimore City. My plan is to have a space in the neighborhoods where we can, plant fresh produce and crops and give them away to the community that needs it the most. And honestly, the African American community is 2 times food insecure than other races. And with that being said, the African American community is most likely to have diet related diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and cancer. So my goal is to prevent that. Instead of families depending on the stores, depending on chips, cakes, sodas, and gummies, I want families to depend on community farms and gardens where they can pick up watermelon, strawberries, fresh vegetables, and stuff like that. And vegetables and fruits are not always exciting because I used to be a person that never used to eat my vegetables, but you can find ways to make it delicious. You can find ways to make the food taste good, and that's why a lot of kids now is depending on stores and going to the corner stores and getting ices and popsicles and stuff like that, just because that's all they know. And sometimes fruits and vegetables, they're very healthy for the body and for the mind as well. So you can teach them how to make, smoothies and a healthy salad. And I like egg parmesan. Not egg. Eggplant parmesan. My bad. Yeah. And I just like, I like the taste of it. So you have to find different ways to make something that you don't like into something that you do like and that's delicious. And I feel like in a child's life, they should learn the importance of eating healthy because, when they grow up, that's all they're gonna know is to eat unhealthy. If they eat the unhealthy foods now, so it's very important to teach a child at a young age about eating healthy.
I definitely agree. I think farming and implementing farms in impoverished communities, or not impoverished, but communities that are more prone to violence, it will be a great productive outlet for the youth as well, because you're providing them with produce and crops, but you're also teaching them how to use their hands productively, and that can better the community. So I definitely agree. Dion?
I agree. And I think on a larger scale, and then I'm gonna come down to earth, but I feel like it's very connected. If food was just free, for one, and if like it was if agriculture was something that was like very ingrained into the societies that we have, and I mean like in every community, like not just in DC and not just in America, not just in like countries that are on this call too, but just if we all, okay, that's the big part. If we all just understood and connected with like the creation of food and with like knowing how to make healthy food good, like you were just saying, I think that would be awesome. But I think on a very like physical level, down to earth level, um, I think they're having like community events where we can have music and dance, or like if we could like deliver packages of like food supplies to people's homes with like recipes on them, and we have like whether it's like virtually or like socially distanced or us coming together to have like a communal space where we talk about the stuff that we're going to do, and we create these foods and we show them together and we eat and all of that, and we remember that that's possible. And I guess to make those things like the sustainable thing, like that's a process that people can like gather in, whether it's like community service or whether it's a job that people have where they really like really cultivate like resources for our community. And like it's a thing that people do where they learn and they teach about food and teach about how we can take care of ourselves, not only as doctors or healthcare professionals, but as we have already, like people who know herbs and how much they heal us, and people who can supply that information, as well as people who know recipes and create their own recipes and keep what we've done as humans, as people going, rather than to us settle into like everything is leaving and we can't do anything about it. So I think like on one level, it's us creating these methods, and a lot of it should have been preventative, but I think in a way, like I noticed that we create like the actions that we want to do or the answers that we have to certain things, like from a place of we are being told no already, or from a place that certain things are not possible. But I think that like we should understand ourselves as like the same people who can create systems and create these models for each other and can take care of each other. I think we should just tell folks we should I was gonna say just tell folks we matter. I don't know. But we should definitely be able to make demands in a certain way. Whereas we really value food and its place in life, and peace and peace in life and those things. All right. Sorry, I got distracted.
It's okay. I agree. I like your idea of providing knowledge and access to information regarding food systems and sustainability actions and things like that by dressing it up as a fun outing for people to go to, like youth or adults, because I feel like there's not enough dialogue around food systems and the importance of the food system and being insecure, having food insecurity in local communities. I think by having like a block party, like you mentioned, where you dance and listen to music, but also still inform the youth and the community members on these topics. I think that's a great way to provide them with that information and dress it up in more of like a fun setting so that it will entice them to want to learn more. So I like that idea. Finn?
Yeah, my idea is very similar to others, with getting people the knowledge and educating them on the difference between not being hungry and being food secure. And being food secure is different than not being hungry, because you could eat snacks, chips, candy, and all that and get full in your stomach, but you won't be truly food secure and healthy with the foods you need. So simple things like Zoom calls, it could, and everything leads to a chain reaction, because once you start teaching the people about food, teaching the people benefits about food, then they'll start to want to cook the food. They'll start wanting to try new recipes. They'll start trying to get to learn more about ways the food help their body, their energy, because a lot of people wouldn't know that eating healthier or living a healthier lifestyle could affect your body in different ways. You might be lose the diabetes you have, or you might stop a chain of health problems in your family by just eating healthier food. So I feel like a lot of things can have a chain reaction by just giving people knowledge and other things that they need to be food secure.
I agree. That was a very, very powerful statement. By eating better and being healthier, you can protect and create a long-standing line for your future generations and your family, providing them with better health so that we're not carrying on cholesterol and high blood pressure and diabetes throughout the bloodline. We're stopping it somewhere and providing healthier alternatives and teaching them the importance of eating better. I like that. That was very powerful, Finn. Jasmine?
I agree. Education is such an important thing. Having consumers be like smart about what they're consuming, what's good for them, what's in their price range, and where it's coming from. I feel like there's not a lot of education about where your food products are coming from. And I think having a smarter consumership is super important. I'd also like to add that one thing I have seen in smaller supermarkets, they have this, I'm not sure what they call it, but all the odd looking foods, so not like the standard perfect foods, you know, some that are a bit smaller or a bit oddly shaped or a bit, you know, a bit odd looking, and they'll sell them at a discounted price. So it means that people have an incentive to purchase what would have been thrown out. So it kind of tackles food wastage, and it also tackles accessibility in a sense. If you have access to cheaper produce, then you're more likely to buy it. You know, I think having that more mainstream and more accessible, not just in a couple of shops, everywhere, would tackle a lot of issues.
I agree. When I was living in New York, there was this company, I'm blanking on the name, but it would sell the day, like, so if the bakery had leftover like little fruit pastries, or if a food restaurant had leftover produce or meals, they, instead of throwing it out, they would sell it for cheaper. And I think that's a really good way to kind of lower the food waste consumption that's happening in the USA, but also provide more access to people so they can have these healthier options. So I think that was a really good point to make, Jasmine. So guys, as we close out, I would like to hear a few encouraging words from our panelists. What are some small and efficient ways that young people can promote food sustainability and strengthen food systems locally or even globally?
I think just one way that without anyone else helping you, just that young people can start looking into where their food's coming from themselves. I think not many, if I think of my friends, like I don't think anyone considers where their food's actually coming from and the journey through the food system from where the food begins to when it ends up on their table and them consuming it. And I think that that knowledge would help young people, really consider sustainability more and to have a better understanding of how they can positively contribute to creating a more sustainable world. In my local council, they've actually started an initiative where, on top of our red and yellow bins for general waste and recycling, our green bins, which were originally just for like gardening waste, they've started a composting program. So they've given all residents a little compost bin for food waste. And I think that if those sorts of initiatives are available in your community, that it's a really great way to, really take that on board and get involved and, really just promote food sustainability and strengthen your food systems.
No, I really agree with that statement. When I was studying abroad in Italy, they had separated their garbage, so it was compost, recyclables, trash, and then paper. And it was, if you didn't compost and you threw it away, you would get fined. So I feel like we need to implement some of those protocols here in the States and also in other countries around the world. So I think that was a really great idea, Olivia. Mar?
I always say this. Change starts with you, and change starts with action as well. We can encourage others to eat healthy and feed them healthy mindsets, but we also got to hold these community leaders accountable and responsible for all of this. Now, I'm just saying that because right now, as we talk about these issues right here on live, the community leaders, they could be sitting at their couch eating popcorn, watching Power, or watching any television show right now as we speak on this issue. And I have realized healthy food is not easy to access. So I would push them to make community fridges and community pantries and stuff like that for people to come there and receive food. Also, having programs that serve lunch and dinner to communities that suffer from food insecurity, and also have community centers that have like an open center where they can come and talk about these issues, because not a lot of communities have that at all. And it's hard to come from a child to now a teenager realizing I have seen some of these things happen before. I have seen where these issues have been pushed to the side. And sometimes we be afraid to talk about these issues because we call it normal. And if we talk about it, we get called odd for even talking about the issue. So I feel like we should find a solution to fix it. And yes, adults might find the problem or fix the problem, but the children is also the future. So if we're looking up to you and you're not doing nothing about the situation, then we have nothing else left to do but to fix it ourselves. So we can talk about healthy benefits and challenges in farming and giving back, but it's nothing without action. And I feel like a lot of adult leaders fail to do that. So I feel like for us young people, I feel like we should, keep it mutual. And, out of respect, I feel like all of us young people, we should be taking the lead on this now, because again, like I said, we're the future. And not only that, the next generation has to depend on us. So pretty much that's it. That's all I can say.
I definitely agree. Action is the best course for us to take if we really want to improve and strengthen our local food systems. And I think I love that how in the city of Baltimore they're implementing the farms, because I feel like that's a great way to get people active and to actually remove ourselves from the table and actually do the work. So I agree. Action is needed. Dion? We can't hear you. Okay, there you go.
Okay, I'm unmuted. All right. I would say listen to your body. Um, for me, I need to continue listening to my body and respecting what it tells me. I think we all can do that. And respecting what our bodies can do, like in the conversations we can have and how we can change ourselves, change other people. How we can like make physical changes, whether it's picking up trash or planting something ourselves, like respecting all of those processes and asking those questions out loud and saying what's on our mind out loud and saying the things that we feel about what we see out loud, and just advocating for ourselves, or even if we don't know where we're going towards, to begin to ask those questions and have those conversations.
Definitely. Finn?
Once again, I'm gonna say that young people could promote food sustainability is by getting knowledge and getting their parents to go to farmers markets more, getting their parents to not buy the unhealthy foods more. They should influence their parents more to go to the markets and things like that and try new recipes. If one person learns something and you pass it on to the next person and everybody keeps passing on the knowledge, it would be like a big outreach. So if everybody holds hands and connects with each other, teaching each other the recipes they know, the tips and tricks they know to make the food that you might not like taste a little bit better, and to teach them how to do it healthily, that can make a big difference in promoting the food sustainability around the country and the world.
I definitely can concur. Jasmine?
Yeah, I agree. Education is super important when it comes to food sustainability and systems. I'd say promoting a conscious approach to food. So what you are consuming, whether it be healthy or unhealthy, it's okay to indulge, but not to indulge all the time. And also be aware of where your food is coming from, how it's being produced, whether it's being sustainably sourced or whether it's being, run-of-the-mill type of stuff. I'd say just to really be conscious. I think it's something that everyone can adopt. It's not difficult. Anyone can be like, should I be buying this? And having a look at the label and stuff. So I think that would be the small and effective way for young people to do that.
Excuse the background noise. So this has been such a fruitful and informative discussion. Would you all mind joining me in giving our panelists you all a round of applause? You did such an amazing job. Yes, y'all gotta clap for yourselves. Okay, I'm gonna say y'all can clap for yourselves. That is so great. I hope you all enjoyed the topics and dialogue we had today. Make sure to check out the UN's Food Systems Summit in September 2021, where the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will launch bold new actions to deliver progress in all 17 SDGs. I want to thank my panelists, our audience. We have extended our gratitude for you for joining in such an important discussion. We hope that each and every one of you have gained insight on the status of food systems around the world, and that we will be inspired to do your part in creating sustainable and effective food systems in your community. Remember, you do not have to wait until tomorrow to make a difference. We have the ability to take small steps to have great impacts as leaders of today. So just again, thank you all for participating in this dialogue. It's been such a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing what you all do in the future.
Thank you.